well, welcome to our session alternatively titled Speak Up or Keep the Developers Out in Order. If you speak up, you may help keep the developers out and participate in your commission. Well, there are 3 of us today. I'm going to begin. I'm currently a Cal Pilots Director at Large for Region 4. I've been involved with the Santa Barbara Airport Commission on and off since 1987. I'm just completing my 5th not consecutive term and wanted to chat with you a little bit about how one gets involved with your airport commission. Very briefly, I will start here and talk a little bit about what an airport commission does, since many are done differently. Our Santa Barbara Airport Commission is actually appointed by the City Council, but the function is basically to review leases that come because we have a lot of property on the airport, and so a lot of those buildings provide the income to help support the airport. We consider budgets and approve them or question them or ask why about a particular item. We look at proposed development and input our comments. We recently built 9 separate smaller rental units that became offices, and at one point we actually had a commissioner say, why are we building these all at once? It's been proposed in 3 phases. So, and we also look at changes to local airport infrastructure. We advise the airport director and his staff on airport issues. Hopefully they appoint people who have some familiarity with the airport, are users of the airport, have a stake in what's going on. We attend and participate in monthly commission meetings. That's a big part of it. Our particular case, we've just gone virtual after having had about 4 or 5 months of no meetings, so this is good. We serve on subcommittees as needed. The subcommittees are something that's usually determined by the airport director or the commission. And for example, here at Santa Barbara, we have a budget subcommittee that reviews budgets and financial items. We have a general aviation subcommittee that reviews any kind of issues that GA has, be it FBOs having problems, be it any kind of complaints, or maybe they want a bigger, fuel pit. Noise abatement problems are also things we listen to, airline issues, what's going on, how do we get more, etc., and ground transportation. Those are the ones here at Santa Barbara. So we're also here to help educate the public on the issues of the airport, and I will occasionally be asked to explain X, Y, or Z, so it's an interesting job. So how do you become a member? Well, I'll tell you a quick story. Became a member because I met back in the late 80s at my local exercise class at the gym, one of the city council members who, after I spoke to him about what I was doing, and I was an airline pilot at the time, he said, gee, we might really be able to use you on our airport commission. Would you apply, please? So one of the things I started doing was attending the meetings, meeting some of the commissioners, and becoming knowledgeable on the issues and procedures. In our particular case, our members are required to interview, so you have to know something about the airport, how it's run, what's involved. So with that, I actually hoped to get engaged, and I started participating by doing some speaking, doing some writing, speaking up when there was something of concern, and of course, apply when the openings are available. And in our particular case, our city has a certain number of airport commissioner slots that are available for people who live in the county of Santa Barbara, as opposed to so many slots that pertain to people who live in the city. And you do have to interview, not just apply, and that gives you an opportunity to tell them why you want to be a commissioner. So once you get appointed, what's expected of you? Well, I probably should say initially you're going to be in the speed learning mode, reviewing all the agenda materials which you receive or have access to before the meetings, becoming familiar with what the issues are, and certainly finding out what's going on, why that particular issue is a concern, conferring with airport users. I will frequently wander over to the terminal and talk with the various different airlines, with the people who work there, and just say, hey, I'm interested in hearing anything you might like to share with me about how the airport is run, what's going on. Attending regular and subcommittee meetings. The subcommittees meet, in our particular case, as often as is necessary. However, we do have regular meetings and you're expected to attend. As a matter of fact, I think that when the city council comes to reappointing commissioners, and in our case, you can serve 2 consecutive terms, they look hard at what your record of attendance is. You know, have you shown up? Have you gone to events, etc.? So all of that is something of being visible, you know, getting the information, processing it, and submitting your opinions. Supporting airports at city and county meetings. Over the last, what is that, 20-something years, I have attended a number of city council meetings. Many times it's just to sit and listen. Other times it's to get up and talk about what are the issues and why is it that we believe that the city council should approve what the airport commission recommends. We are very close to the ocean here at Santa Barbara, so we have, anytime we want to do anything in terms of, for example, we actually shifted our runway 1,000 feet to the west. We didn't make it longer, we just added some overruns. But the Coastal Commission became involved and they wanted to know, for example, why wouldn't you use an EMAS system, which is one of those, I think Monterey just installed one that allows an airplane, good only for heavy airplanes, to plow into something soft that will stop them if they have an overrun. But they want people who are knowledgeable or who can certainly discuss the issues. And finally, they want us to participate in PR events. A new airline comes to town, a new route is started, any of that time. Safety trainings we have, for example, every year, airports are expected to review their emergency procedures and do drills. Also service events, anything that's going on at the airport that they want to. For example, they may have a whole session set up to show the public what, for example, is coming in the future, and they are planning for various different aspects of the airport. So once appointed, it's really, you know, be familiar with the issues, participate, and speak up. So with that, that's pretty much what a commissioner does. And at this point, we're going to turn to Carol, who's going to talk to us about key documents for airports.
Hi, everybody. This is the California Land Use Planning Handbook. And you can see it's nice and thick, and it covers the rules and regulations about building next to an airport. And that's where they also have the airport influence area, the AIA, and that's the area around the airport that is influenced by the airport and affects land use there too. And then we have Comprehensive Airport Compatibility Plan. This is for San Mateo. And I also have one to show you. This is, I'm sorry, San Mateo County, but it's Half Moon Bay Airport. And this one is the Comprehensive Land Use Plan for the environment of San Francisco International Airport. They're all nice and thick and they're juicy. So they are put out, they are made for the City County Association of Governments of San Mateo County, and that's where I serve as an airport committee, on the Airport Land Use Committee. And the way I got onto this committee is I was the alternate for many, many years. Could I have the next slide, please?
Let's see if I can make that work.
Thank you. So the committee is 13 members. And there are one representative from each city on the peninsula where these, for San Mateo County, and one representative of the county, one of the supervisors, and then one pilot from each of the 2, not 3 airports, one from Half Moon Bay and one from San Carlos. And the pilots associations are allowed to pick the representatives that they want to have there, which is terrific. So I was the alternate for many years, and then the person who was the representative on the committee retired, and that's how I got on. And the land use, Airport Land Use Committee handles day-to-day planning and oversees the compatibility plans, which I just showed you. And they recommend updating of airport land use comprehensive compatibility plans every several years. The state recommends that. And there are 3 airports in San Mateo County, though the county only owns 2 of them. They own, of course, Half Moon Bay and San Carlos. But San Francisco Airport, which is in San Mateo County, is owned by the city of San Francisco, even though we pay attention to the compatibility of it. So some of the things that are covered in that are schools. Could we have the next slide, please?
Let's see if I can get you to it.
Let's take your time. I think it's slide number 6. Yeah, no. Next one.
Let's see.
One more.
I think I have a different thing. I shared my screen with.
One.
Sorry
Next
about
one.
this.
It's okay, one more, but I'll tell you about it anyway. Schools, that's it. Schools, according to the California Land Use Planning Handbook, are not permitted within 2 miles from any airport. That rule is sometimes ignored, but we argue for it anyway because it's a safety factor. It's not that we expect planes to hit schools, but if one did, it would be a monumental disaster. So we want to plan for that to avoid it. And the California Land Use Planning Handbook was started in 1972 after a fighter jet at an air show at Sacramento Executive Airport plowed into Farrell's ice cream parlor. Maybe some people remember this, in Sacramento, and killed 22 children. That was really, really horrendous. It was a ball of flame, and it woke people up to, you shouldn't have an ice cream parlor at the end of a runway. So that's what started the California Airport Land Use Planning Handbook. And this handbook is very valuable, and we are the canaries in the coal mine in California, because things happen here and then they go to other states. Like land use demand, especially in the Bay Area, is very heavy, or at least it has been until now. And so these issues of users versus developers are acute in California. And so this handbook has been exported to Minnesota, Michigan, the state of Washington, and several other areas. So this is a valuable document that we have. Now, the charter schools we found not that long ago, when my other colleague was serving on the Airport Land Use Committee, that charter schools weren't covered in this document. And someone wanted to put a charter school within a mile of takeoff from San Carlos Airport, from 30. And so they went to the charter school and said, you know, this is probably not the best place to put a school. And even though we didn't have any teeth in it to object to that, they agreed to move the school. And so then we, Cal Pilots and San Carlos Airport Association, went to the Capitol and testified at an education committee to get them, that's who was in charge of this, to get them agree to include charter schools in their prohibition to have schools near airports. So that was a worthwhile a fight. And there are many other things which Bill will talk about which are not permitted or are permitted in the handbook. So the San Carlos Airport Association, which is a chapter of the California Pilots Association, in 2002, worked with Assemblyman Joe Simidian. You might find that name familiar because now Joe Simidian is a supervisor for San Mateo County. And he worked with us to carry this bill and get it passed and signed by the governor, which notifies people of moving who have moved near to an airport that they will. So this is the answer to bad land use planning. If they still allow houses next to an airport, we have a recourse because they have to sign a standalone document that goes with their deed that says, if you live within 5 miles, the area of influence around an airport, that you know you are going to subject yourselves to vibration, dust, high frequency noises, noise from the airplanes, many, many things. There's a long list, but you know it and you're signing it of your own will in a sign-alone document when you sign your deed. And that notification doesn't necessarily thwart people from complaining about the noise from the airports, but what it does do is that all the elected officials know that people have signed this document and are therefore aware that they have moved next to the nuisance, so to say. And so if you move next to the nuisance, that's kind of your fault. And so that's why we argue for that and value that legislation. A friend described it at a meeting once that his children were doing their homework, and one child was playing the piano, and the other child moved next to the piano, sat on the floor, and started to do their homework, and then complained that there was too much noise from the piano for them to do their homework. But the dad said to them, well, you went in and sat down next to the piano. Isn't that your fault? So that's kind of like people who move next to an airport and then want to complain about the noise from the airport. That's the point of this. So serving on your airport land use committee or your commission or advocating for aviation, those are all things that we recommend for the California Pilots Association, and we'd be very happy if you joined us in these fights. And now I'm going to turn over the talk to Bill Sanders, who's going to talk more about land use. Bill?
So first of all, I want to make sure everybody can hear me.
We can.
Because I'm on okay, good, that's great. So a little bit of background on me. So I got interested in aviation when I was a student at San Jose State, joined the military, came back, and been flying in general aviation airplanes quite a bit. I'm a flight instructor and a longtime member of California Pilots Association, and Carol is doing an outstanding job. So a little bit about the California Pilots Association. We don't do a whole lot of fun things, fly-in things to do. We do spend most of our effort, which we call preserving and protecting your local airport. So we are blessed here in California by having a wonderful aviation infrastructure, and our founder, Jay Fry, used to say that airports are the connection to the freeway interchanges to the airways in the sky. California has a wonderful economic infrastructure, and we all get to benefit from that. So this airport land use planning handbook is a wonderful tool that clearly defines what should or should not be done anywhere around California airports. It's a headache to try to get through. It's very comprehensive. From it, each airport is supposed to have its own individual airport land use plan, and you should check out or go to your airport's website or your county's website and look up the specific airport land use plan for your airport, which determines which should or should not be located around your airport out to quite some long distances. So following the process, the developers know well what should or should not be on the ground. So there's a petitioning process where they go to the airport commissions and land use planning sections for the various counties around the airports. And the developers present their argument like, wow, look at all this wonderful open area. We should put a Jack-in-a-Box there, or maybe an ice cream parlor. And they make very, very compelling arguments. And they're also, you know, connected to some election campaigns. So what we have to do is go there, and we're not going there with our hand in our hat in our hand, asking for permission. What we do is we go before these meetings and say, well, there's this document that the state of California has, and it causes you to have this document for each individual airport that says what you should or should not have around your airports. And these documents have areas that document, go ahead and hit the slide, document what should be at the end of each runway. They have sideline safety zones, and they have many zones going way beyond the airport, which are to help the community. Very good. And what we urge you to do is get familiar with your local planning handbook for the airport, so you can go to a meeting and don't threaten anything. Just say, look, this is what the rules are, and we, you know, hope you'll follow them and not grant this waiver. You don't have to be argumentative. Just simply say, oh, these are the rules. Now, in addition to the planning handbook and the airport land use plans for your individual airports, California also has lots of other laws which relate to specific things, like Carol was mentioning, schools, there's hospitals, there's all sorts of things that mention where a school should be built or not, where a hospital should be built or not. We participated in an effort over at Half Moon Bay Airport where on base leg, they were trying to put a housing development for some handicapped people. Well, we weren't against the handicapped people. Our presentation was, well, that's great, but this doesn't belong here in this safety zone by the airport. Put it somewhere else where it belongs. So yes, we think it's a wonderful facility, but not here. So when you participate in your meetings, go there in a constructive mood and saying, look, we want you to follow the law, be familiar with your land use planning handbook. I had a picture of the one for Reed Hillview, and I don't know if I can bring it up on my computer. I'll try to do that, but if I lose you in the process, thank you very much for attending. Yes, join California Pilots, and pay attention to what the developers want to do with your safe space that protects the community next to your airport. Now, let me see if I can get my picture up here. I don't know if I can do that. So,
are you going to talk
Carol.
about this too? You talk about this too, that airspace is nearby, Bill?
Yeah, the airspace is there. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Carol. So that's the California Planning Handbook has the ground uses. Thank you, Carol. The FAA has an extensive document on what should go around, what should be in the airspaces. So in other words, you can't construct, let's say, one of the things that happens sometimes is they put a golf driving range like in our clear zone. Well, that's a pretty open space, but there's lots of bright lights that go along with golf courses. Thanks, Carol. So what happens there is the lights on the open space interfere with the vision at night. So there's many other factors other than just, you know, burgers in there. So you pay attention. So the FAA has airspace things that pertain to like power plants. I think the planning handbook also talks about bird migration areas. So, you know, you're not supposed to have something that encourages flocks of birds. You know, we have these flyways in California where birds attend. So that's also happens. So we don't hate birds, but birds and airplanes sometimes don't get along. So thank you very much. Anything else I forgot to include, Carol?
I don't know. Do you have another slide, Karen?
No, but I will just add that too often people decide that, you know, the great thing to put at the end of a runway is a garbage dump. And it is one of the worst things, which attracts all the birds and is a huge hazard to airplanes. So there are a number of poor planning examples of things you don't want near airports. And of course, the best time to do this is to figure out what's going on now. Bill's comment, or it may have been Carol's, about people who move in and live close to airports. Santa Barbara has a big problem right now with folks complaining about the noise. And of course, when you live a mile from the end of the main airline runway, you're going to get noise. That's just the way it is. And of course, we have to point out to them what was there first, etc. But very important. And, you know, realtors need to respect it and not play it down. Oh, it's nothing, you know.
So we're not going to these meetings with our hat in our hand, asking for permission. What we hope to do is politely say, you know, there's laws here made to protect the community, and the airport is not just for the rich kids with airplanes. It's to support the vital economic structure of the entire state. And your community, your whole community, benefits from having this airport here. The developers want to benefit from having their ice cream, well, the ice cream parlor was there, but any other stuff they put at the end of the runway, which is not okay. Look farther beyond the airport. Look at your airport land use plan for your airport. And thank you very much for joining California Pilots Association.
One of our listeners, they chatted and said it's a good idea to look at all construction permits. That's correct, it is. And one of the other things that Karen brought up was having a garbage landfill at the end of the runway. That is what is happened in Stockton. And Andy Wilson has gone over multiple times to Stockton to testify against that. And I think that it is limited now. I don't think Andy's on and he could give us an update, but I know that he has advocated strongly not to they wanted to have a whole additional garbage dump thing there to attract more birds. It's already an attractant and it's already a hazard. So I believe that we have testified against that and have limited that in Stockton.
So there's another thing that's not really on the table here, but there's a lot of windmills that are being put up to generate electric energy. That's not such a complaint for us, except for one thing. Those huge blades whirling around where we have air traffic control and approach control radars, that screws up with the radars. So the windmills really should be opposed because of what they do to the approach control radars, making it difficult for the controllers to work with us.
My question would be, what about the turbulence they produce in the area?
You're both right. In Rio Vista, they put windmills too close to the runway, and that caused them to raise the approach level. And we give up airspace when this happens. So that's one of the things that Bill was talking about, is preserving the airspace, which is just as important as preserving the land around the airport.
So the bottom line here is lots of developers want to put something that conflicts with law, and there's laws beyond the handbook that we're talking about. And we don't fret. We just simply say, look, follow the law, and this should not be put here for your safety. And it's not just because we want to have fun with airports. The airports are a great contributor to the economy of California. Thank you very much.
Somebody has asked a question about educating the, I'm not sure, it just sort of disappeared, educating the airport land use committee. I wasn't sure if she wanted us to be educated, or how we educate the committee, or how we speak before them. The way we speak before them is, go ahead.
Many commissioners are volunteers from the community. They join because they want to help out, or maybe they want to work up their way in the political structure of their community. That's not a problem for us. However, many of them mean well, but don't understand the laws that we're trying to be enforced. So rather than show up as an argumentative thing, work with the committee members to help them understand the laws. And by the way, there's lots of local staff people that work in the planning departments that do know this stuff, and we work well with those people too. So we go constructively to these meetings, is what I'm trying to say.
Super.
Great. Is it time for Miss Vanna Jolie? Or do we have any questions?
Oh yeah, any questions? Would the ADSB mitigate the radar problems with windmills? I don't think so.
No, I don't.
Well, maybe, I don't know. What do you think, Bill?
Well, we don't. That's actually not covered very well in the airport land use planning handbook, but it is a fact that needs to be addressed. And I would think the FAA radar guys would be really interested in that. It's not in the planning handbook, no, but it does cause a serious problem for approach control radars.
But it doesn't take care of Karen's concern of the turbulence from the windmills. That's still
Correct.
ongoing.
I haven't personally experienced it, but I could understand where if it's too close to the airport, where that
So
could be a cause.
there was one more issue, which is the power plants that Andy Wilson and I, he's the director at large for Region 3. We worked on that about 10 years ago, and it was to keep power plants from being built under the pattern at Hayward Airport. And that had never been a problem before because they used huge smokestacks to dissipate the vapors from the power plant, but now they're using a different kind of engine, so the smokestacks could be really low, and though they still shot up plumes into the atmosphere that were a very high velocity and a very high temperature and very dangerous to pilots, breathing for the pilots and breathing for the airplane. So we were able for the first time ever to get that stopped by the California Energy Commission, denied the permit for that power plant because of aviation. And that had never happened before. And we also were able to get an AIM page for the Airman's Information Manual about the hazards of flying by plumes. So thank you all.
Since you mentioned Andy Wilson, he spent lots of time making presentations before the California Energy Commission, and they're understanding our concerns. And we should thank Andy Wilson for all of that time he spent doing all those presentations. Andy's kind of a quiet guy. People heckle him a lot. That man produces an awful lot.